Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. So in this quick bonus module, I want to have a short conversation with you to talk about something that you may have noticed in the course that we didn't really address. So let me start by giving you a little bit of a story. So a few months ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was just leaving her full-time job to start her small business, a consultancy that works with entrepreneurs in the financial services spaces to help them with scaling their technology. And I drew this for her. I drew this drawing and I said, hey, do you know what this is? And the answer is that this is the ideal customer journey. If I was starting over from scratch, this is the customer journey I would build. And I'm not sure how well it's coming up for the video here, but effectively I've got a straight line. It's a linear path. And that is the point that I'm trying to make, is that the ideal customer journey is a straight line. It takes people from point A to point B in the most expedient fashion. Now, the reason I say ideal instead of the actual customer journey is because I know that in our businesses, it often isn't that simple. So when I started this video, I said the thing you may have noticed in the course, but we didn't really talk about, was that every example I gave was a linear path. All of the stages and the milestones that we laid out were linear, and that was intentional. I did that because that is the way I encourage people to think about their businesses. It is the way I encourage people to design their customer journeys. But I also want to point out that depending on how your business is structured, your journeys, you may have multiple, first of all, but they also might converge and they might diverge at different pinch points, and that's okay. So if you watched those videos and you thought, you know what, this linear path sounds great, but my business has these on-ramps and off-ramps at different junctures, don't worry, you're not alone. Most businesses do, mine certainly does. So here's the way I want to encourage you to think about this. When you are designing the bridges between those milestones, as much as they are part of an overarching journey and you do want continuity between them, I also want to point out that what you are doing is creating modularized sections of that journey, okay? So here's an example. You might have 4 or 5 different opt-ins, 4 or 5 different lead magnets that people can sign up for. But if you are only selling one thing, then at the point of purchase, those 4 or 5 opt-ins will converge into one singular fulfillment journey. So your customer journey or the customer experience you're creating is comprised of those individual journeys. Each customer will follow one of those paths, and at the point of purchase, those 5 different opt-ins will all converge into one singular fulfillment journey, and that's okay, right? Or conversely, you might have one lead magnet. Maybe it's a demo on your website for the software that you produce. And everybody comes in through that demo. There's a series of follow-up Q&A style emails, or FAQ rather, style emails. And then at the point of purchase, they choose the tier of your software that they want, either bronze, silver, or gold. And then based on what they bought, it then diverges into 3 individual journeys depending on the specifics for that particular product or level of service that you have offered, okay? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that as nice as it would be to have a singular linear journey, the reality is oftentimes you'll have multiple journeys that either converge or diverge at specific points. So that's okay. This formula doesn't break down. It just means that when you are assessing the bridge portion between those 2 milestones, you need to recognize that some segments of that journey may have more than one bridge. Some milestones might have multiple bridges leading into it or leading out from it. So it can feel like it's getting more complicated or more difficult to maintain or to follow, but just rest assured that they are all still part of that overarching customer journey, and the clearer you can get on the milestones, the more easy it will become to map those specific segments that guide the leads and prospects in between them. So one additional layer to this conversation that I think is really insightful, or can be really insightful, is recognizing that when you have branching paths in your customer journey, or when you have diverging paths, it also presents an opportunity for us to analyze the data at a more detailed level. So let me tell you what I'm talking about here. So if you take the example with 4 lead magnets all steering people toward the same purchase, well, If you average out those 4, you might determine that that purchase, that milestone rather, has a conversion point of X%. And if that percentage is acceptable, then you might just move on. But when you know that there are diverging paths, you have the opportunity then to drill in a little further and to determine, okay, what's the conversion trend at this milestone for each of these 4 lead magnets? And maybe they're all really similar, right? Maybe they're all really close and the average is an accurate representation of those paths. But what you might find as you unpack that data a little bit is that one or more of those lead magnets is underperforming. So if that's the case and it is sustained over time, if 1 or 2 of those lead magnets are really bringing down your average, and that carries on over a period of months or time to the point where you're convinced that this can't be salvaged, then you might decide to stop sending traffic to those particular lead magnets simply because they're not producing customers as efficiently as the other 2 are. And if you choose to discontinue those lead magnets, obviously any budget you had spent on them, you can reallocate toward the 2 that are producing at a higher rate. So what that would do for you is 2 things. Number 1 is it would allow you to use your ad spend more efficiently, but number 2 is it would immediately bring up your conversions at that point of purchase because you have cut out the 1 or 2 channels leading into it that may have been artificially dragging that conversion percentage down. The same thing is true for any of your milestones. If you know, for example, that in the fulfillment journey, you've got those 3 tiers, bronze, silver, and gold, leading people after the purchase toward joining a partner program or referring a friend. But if you notice that for some reason your gold membership tier and your silver membership tier are producing referrals at a high rate, but for some reason your bronze membership tier isn't, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should stop selling the bronze tier because maybe you've got a longer customer lifetime value there. But if you know that those individuals are not referring people as regularly as the other 2, it's an opportunity to examine the experience that your bronze members are having and to say, well, what could we add to this experience that would make these individuals more likely to reach the next milestone, which in this example is referring someone or joining a partner program, that sort of thing. Now, the final piece of advice I will remind you of here is that if you go through this exercise and you decide, I know I have work to be done in this area, or I know that it could be more robust or more seamless in this area, or I know that I need more traffic or I need more conversions, right? If you have this conversation and you pick your direction, but you're still, you're feeling like maybe you're not the best person to do it, that's where you would reach for or tap in an expert or a consultant or somebody who specializes in that particular thing or that deficit that you've established. And the reason I underscore that is because this conversation should not only prepare you to find that person, but it should also set you up for success in terms of enrolling them with the right expectations from the onset. By going through this process, by following along in this conversation, and by tracking the data and putting together the conversion trends and highlighting the different areas that need your attention, you can hit the ground running with whichever consultant first of all, you can find the right person who has the skill set to attack those pain points, but you can also hit the ground running because you've done some of the heavy lifting, you have set up the boundaries or drawn the lines that you need them to color within. So hopefully, whether you decide to pursue the solution on your own or to partner with someone to get it done, this whole process makes that simpler, more efficient, and produces a greater outcome for both your customers and for your bottom line. Take care.